Good morning. You are listening to the First Title National Real Estate Radio Show. I am your host, Doug Dennison, and we are broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city, at WFOY 1240 AM studios. Through the power of the Internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1240news.com. The show will also be archived on FirstTitleServices.com, as First Title and Escrow, Inc. are the sponsors of this program. They are a leading national title agency, and pleased to be working with them. Additionally, this show will be posted on YouTube.com. Our radio show mission statement: to provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for real estate sales across the country. We're going to be talking about real estate, different real estate markets across the country. We got a lot of topics today. We've got help and calls from. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, good morning, Doug. Larry Latham.
Hey, sir. How are you? Well, thank you. I've been giving you some great raves as introduction, but tell us who you are, Larry, where you're from, what you do, and also a little bit about your background, if you would.
Okay, sure. Love to, Doug. Anyway, good morning.
Good morning.
And just wanted to say love the radio show, so
thank you.
Listen to it a lot.
Thank you.
Hey, a little bit of background. Larry Latham, co-chairman of AmeriBid. AmeriBid is a national auction company, mainly related to real estate and mainly commercial real estate, although we do residential. We do a lot of farm, ranch, a lot of resort properties also, ski resorts, hotels, and that type of thing. The company has been around, new name, actually from about 1997. But the company's been around since about 1981, so we've been around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Been in the auction business since 1978, I guess it is. And we've sold probably across the country over the years 150+ thousand properties.
I was wondering what that number was, Larry, because I've always kind of thought of you as a mentor, and I competed against you for years, and I'm very proud that I sold about, I'm going to say, 12,000 government surplus properties, and I consider myself an expert in the disposition of government surplus properties, and to hear that you've sold 10 times more than me, that's why you are my mentor, sir.
Well, we've known each other for a very long time and had some great times together. So, over the years it adds up. I guess it's just over a long period of time. It basically is what we're talking about.
Well,
a little here and a little there, and at the end of the day, it sounds like a large number. But
Larry, you were a visionary. You are a visionary, but you started the auction for many different government agencies, and I'm gonna name a few. I'm probably gonna be left out, but you were the first to have a big contract with Fannie Mae, with the Veterans Administration, the VA, the Freddie Mac. You did many properties for RTC, Resolution Trust Corporation. Outside of real estate, you did the first FCC auction that it generated millions and millions of dollars. Give us just a little bit about that, because that's always been very interesting to me.
Oh, that was a very interesting one. We got a phone call on the FCC, and the FCC had sold everything. The radio stations, of course, television stations, were all done by lottery. And so what would happen is you would put in your money, and it might cost $50,000, $60,000, $100,000, depending on what you were trying to get a license for.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people would also put in for it. And they would simply then draw your name basically out of a hat if you qualified. They put all the qualified people that, say, wanted a radio station in St. Augustine, Florida, or, in Huntsville, Alabama, wherever it might be. Mm-hmm. And then when the frequency was available, They would take all the applications, qualify the people, put them all in a hat, draw one out. Basically, that's how it was done. It was a lottery system.
Mm-hmm.
And so, therefore, if you won the lottery, then you got the frequency. So you could build your radio, television station, or whatever it was. And about 1994, they said, well, that's really not probably the fairest way to do it. What we should do is have people bid on it because we're giving these frequencies away. And the FCC really wasn't getting a lot of money out of that compared to what it was. It might cost $100,000 to get a TV license. It might take $30,000 to put in to get a radio license. So they decided what we'll do is we'll auction it. So they went around the country, and they basically went to some of the top guys at Northwestern, MIT, and they were looking for the top professors, the top thinkers on how to do this. And they were looking at folks who could give some input into the strategy.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, folks who were in the gaming type business, folks that were in the statistical type business. They put together a group of guys, and of about 18 people basically, and said, okay, how do we do it? Come up with a great idea, and let's see if there's a better way to do it than lottery. Well, the idea was actually auction. And Nash was one of the guys, I think out of Princeton, and they made a movie about Nash called The Beautiful Mind. Well, Nash came up with he came up with a paper, and this paper was, I have the paper around my office here somewhere even today, because I look at it once in a while. I can't understand any of it, but apparently it was a brilliant paper. He won a Nobel Prize on it, but it simply didn't work. I mean, he had students, graduate students, who were using jelly beans to bid on what ended up being billions of dollars worth of broadcast frequencies, which was the frequencies for the cell phones that we all talk on today. They were all sold at auction. And the IVDS system was sold at auction, too, which was a little different system. But the system for the cell phones came up for auction. And the FCC had no idea what they were worth.
Mm-hmm.
None. Had no idea what the IVDS auction was. So we went in and created a system for them to be able to sell that. One of the things that did come out of all these folks was that a simultaneous bidding system would probably work better than a sequential bidding system. And what I mean by that, the IVDS was the only called auction. I call that auction the IVDS. And I remember Commissioner Hunt, I asked him, I said, well, what do you think it's going to bring? What would you like to see it bring today? And he said, well, $10 million, we'd have a great day. And we're selling, I think, 100 of the IVDS frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
About 4 hours later, the total was standing a little above, I think, $280 million. So they had to readjust their figures for what they thought the rest of the frequencies were going to bring, and they brought about $20 billion. And over the years, from about 1995 to about 2005, I think they sold different frequencies, different telephone frequencies around the country, but they did it all electronically at that point because they had to do it on a simultaneous basis. And I think the total was about $70 billion the FCC raked in that they wouldn't have had they just kept going with the lottery system and not gone to the auction system.
That's an amazing story, and you and I talked a little bit about it. I saw you just a couple of days ago in Las Vegas. We had a little time to sit down together, and we talked about the past and the auctions. And I found out you at AmeriBid you just had a very successful auction in New Orleans. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We did. The New Orleans Housing Authority down there called NORA, great group of folks, and they've been working on these properties to try to get them back into the hands of the public since Katrina. So many properties were wiped out, destroyed, flooded, and so they started to kind of rebuild the properties and to try to get the properties, and not totally rebuild them from scratch, but get them in either a living condition or take the properties down totally and just sell the lots. And so they finally have gotten to the point over the past 12 months or so, they're now doing that. And they have thousands of properties that were destroyed, partially destroyed in Katrina, which which now they're able to start to the process of getting rid of these properties and getting these properties out of the hands of the so-called government entities
that
have been ended up owning these properties, back into the hands of the public, back to the hands of people that can go down, rebuild the properties, or build from scratch in some cases if the whole building had to be taken down, and rehabilitate some of the ones that weren't taken down. And that process started about a year ago. So we went in to try to make that as level a playing field as possible, offer that up to the public, and we're at the convention center, and we had close to 1,000 people show up, and we had about 130, I think, some odd properties, and within just a few hours, we'd sell those properties. Every one of them sold. I think most all of them have closed at this point, and they're looking for some other properties to put up. So yeah, it's a great day for the people down in New Orleans being able to get these properties back, because some of these neighborhoods, some of the properties were rebuilt.
Sure.
I mean, you've got areas where they were really devastated.
Yep.
And so now then they're going to rebuild these areas because now these properties are back into the hands of the private sector. So it's really great for the neighborhoods, several of the neighborhoods in New Orleans and surrounding areas.
Well, let's fast forward. Vegas. Vegas seems like it is doing very well. You live in Las Vegas. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening? Of course, the ups and downs, and we who have been in the auction business in the past have seen that. But Las Vegas was hit very hard. How's it doing now?
Las Vegas, I think, probably overall was one of the hardest hit areas in the country during the recession here, and part of that had to do with just the mediocre or the meteoric. What do we call it? With the meteorites, or whatever it is, rising above.
Yes.
Yeah, because for years and years, I mean, there seemed like there was just no cap. Prices kept going up and up and up, and people were moving in. And at one point, I think there was 8,000 people a month moving into Las Vegas. Well, as everything in about 2008, that all changed almost overnight.
Right.
And so Las Vegas was probably the worst hit as far as foreclosures, and still has not totally regained it. There's not a lot of properties for sale right now in Las Vegas. There's still a lot of properties in the foreclosure rolls in Las Vegas in one form or another, one in the process. But in reality, what we see here now is people coming in from all over the country, all over the world, buying up a lot of these properties because the price got so low. I mean, some of the properties, even on the Strip, the condos and all were, 30 cents on the dollar, what they were back 2004, 2005, 2006. And so when the price got to that point, they started getting gobbled up. What I hear now from most of the realtors here in Las Vegas is simply there's no product to sell.
Isn't that something?
And so there may be properties in the pipeline, but as quick as they come on board, they're just getting gobbled up. I mean, they don't last a week.
Well, that's a wonderful story, and again, things go up, things go down, and the places that normally get hit the most are probably Florida, California, Las Vegas.
Arizona got hit pretty bad.
I was going to say Phoenix, and some of the downturns, and we've been through a few. Texas has been hit bad, and New England's been hit bad, but that hasn't happened that much this time around. So I am thrilled for Las Vegas. It's kind of like I'm going to have somebody on from Detroit, in the next segment of our show, and he's going to have pretty much the same story, I think, just down in the pits and then rising and rising. So it's a wonderful thing. I want to talk about the NAA, the National Auctioneers Association. You are a Hall of Fame member, elected recently. There's an upcoming conference, and your company, AmeriBid, is going to be one of the main sponsors. We've only got a couple more minutes, but why do you believe so strongly in the NAA?
Well, I've been a member of the NAA since probably 1980, 1981. Mm-hmm. It's done so much for the auction profession because their code of ethics really is what I think almost every auction company in the country follows, and it's a very strict code of ethics. The people that I have met and know, and friends that I have had for over 30 years, I love the convention because I get to go to the convention and see them every year.
Sure.
And we all get busy during the year, so we don't have time to talk a lot sometimes.
Yep.
But it's just great to see these friends you've had for 30 years and be able to talk about old times. So I like to these days.
It's a great
with these guys.
It's a great organization, and I'm thrilled to be still a member of it, just like you are. And I'm not a Hall of Fame member like you, sir, but man, it's an amazing organization, and congrats again for being elected to the Hall of Fame. Tell us how people can get to AmeriBid, because I know there's more auctions coming up. How do they get to AmeriBid to find out about these properties?
You know, the best thing, Doug, really is you go online, you go to AmeriBid.com, and really all the information that you'd ever want to know about AmeriBid is on that site, AmeriBid.com, AMERIBID, AmeriBid, AmeriBid.com. And I could give you the phone numbers and all, but
sure.
The phone numbers are all on there.
Okay,
and
sure.
all the other information's on there.
Okay.
And we'd love to have you visit the website whenever you have time.
Perfect. Hey, Larry, thanks so much for being on the show. You are the first guest of the First Title National Real Estate Radio Show. I specifically wanted you. You have been a past supporter, and I'm hoping we're going to do business in the near future, sir.
Well, Doug, I'm honored. Thank you very, very much. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And it's great when I get, we're in the same area and I get a chance to, have lunch, dinner, and have a chance to sit eyeball to eyeball and reminisce about some of the things that we've done over the past years together, which is always
Thanks, Larry. I got to go. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. All right. That was Larry Latham. I kind of cut him up short. We've got ads that are coming on, and I appreciate his call. And, again, that was Larry Latham. He is the co-chairman, partner, founder of AmeriBid from Las Vegas, Nevada. Just very thrilled to have him on as the first call-in guest of the program. Again, you're listening to First Title National Real Estate Radio. We are broadcast every Friday live from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city, at WFOY 1240 AM studios. Larry is a good friend. Jess was with him because I was in Las Vegas, and at the ICSC conference, which is a shopping center conference, there were 45,000 people there. It was an intense conference. It was located at the Las Vegas Convention Center, and it was extremely big place. And so lots of walking, lots of talking. I just got back yesterday, so I'm still a little tired from the format and meeting so many good people. And now we are jumping into the first show of the First Title National Real Estate Radio Show. FirstTitleServices.com. They are a leading national title agency, and we're going to hear from the president a little bit later. But Great company. I'm thrilled to be a part of it. Steve Papermaster is the president and CEO. Pam Gibbons is his partner. They've been together for many years, and just an amazing crew. I was up there in the Washington, D.C. area just about a week and a half ago. Got to meet all the people up there, and then went down to Washington, D.C. to talk to people in the congressional offices to find out what's happening with the bills. Larry Latham talked about that he has sold more than 100,000 properties for the government. And the reason why is because it's the quickest, most efficient, most transparent way to sell government properties. And so Steve Papermaster, the president of the first title and escrow company, went with me, and we went to Congressman Denham's office, who had a bill to try to sell some 14,000 government surplus properties. And then we went to Congressman Chevez's office, and he's got a bill that is going to be trying to sell these properties. And then we went to Senator Carper's office, and they are coming together to get a bill that will be passed. And again, this is a win-win situation. It's a must for as a taxpayer. We are paying, the number now, right now, is $1.6 billion a year. You heard me right. $1.6 billion a year in holding costs for properties that are not being used. One of the properties that I always talk about is a property that is right in Washington, D.C. It's a post office annex, and it hasn't been used for 10 years. Every year it costs $6 million in holding cost for that property, and so that's $60 million that we have wasted. And our budget needs some help. Taxpayers need some help. So these properties need to be sold. I am no longer in the auction business, except for assisting auction firms who need title work, but I am a big proponent for the government to sell these 14,000 government surplus properties by auction, because it's the most transparent way and the quickest way. 14,000 properties is a lot of properties, folks. And these are not residential homes. These are commercial properties. Let's go to our next caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, Doug. Bob Pliska, Sperry, Ness.
Bob, well, great to have you on the show, sir. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what do you do?
Yeah, my name is Bob Pliska, Pliska, from Sperry, Ness. Here in my office here is in Detroit. We do buy, sell, lease, finance, auction, commercial real estate properties. And we have, I have 175 affiliates across the country, all under the Sperry Van Ness umbrella.
Very nice. And Sperry Van Ness, do they have people across the country?
Yes. Again, we have 175 locations.
Okay.
Again, the plus with Sperry Van Ness is versus some of the other national firms is we not only have offices in the major cities like Chicago and Dallas and L.A. and so forth, but we also have many small secondary, tertiary markets. Some of our biggest offices, our biggest producers, are coming from our smaller offices, like places like Salisbury, Maryland, and Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Fort Collins, Colorado, that many of the larger firms don't have. So we can pretty much cover the country because of our spread throughout the country. Nice.
Well, you and I have been friends for a long time. I was just on my rant about selling the 14,000 government surplus properties and how it is important to sell them for the American taxpayer. And, of course, you've been a big proponent for that also, and probably because the fact that many years ago you and I worked together. Tell the story for our listeners, if you would.
Yeah, fortunately, back several years ago, I was at the ICSC convention, which was just held in Las Vegas.
Yes.
Met an individual named Louis Fisher, who you and I are mutual friends with.
Absolutely.
With Sperry Van Ness. And with that association, had a little seminar and auctions there, and I sat in on it, came back to my office here in Detroit,
Sure.
and just a couple days later I found out that the state of Michigan was selling a substantial piece of property, 400 acres in one of the upscale suburbs, that was basically a surplus property because on it was a psychiatric hospital that decided to close about 3 or 4 years prior to that, and they tried to sell this thing on the normal approach of selling it, putting up for sale and then going through the process of trying to find a buyer, et cetera. And then they decided to do an auction because they were unsuccessful in selling it 4 times previously under the previous approach. So with that auction, we were able to sell a $31.5 million property via the auction process.
Well, it was a huge success. Again, Louis Fisher is involved with a big auction right now, and you are too. Louis Fisher from Sperry Van Ness heads the auction division for that great company. You've got a big auction coming up right now. What is that all about, Bob?
Yeah, it's an auction put together by, I think, Louis Fisher and Jerry Anderson of our firm, who basically we were able to get around $400 million of property in this, 150 properties, of which Jerry is the chairman and Louis is basically handling a lot of the areas of the auction. And we've combined with quite a few other of the brokerage firms across the country and putting together some really quality properties. And that's been going on for the last 3 or 4 months, of which we are in the process of next week putting these, basically doing the actual online auction, which will be occurring.
Final bids are coming in next week.
Final bids will be coming in,
nice.
And if you want to go to that particular site, it's Auction Point. It's auctionpoint.com, and you'll see some really quality, $400 million of properties, 150 properties, pretty much all across the country, and several that are international properties like Costa Rica and so forth.
All commercial properties, correct?
All commercial properties. Well, I think they're pretty much all commercial. I would say there may be some small little residential in there, but it's primarily all commercial.
Okay. And all throughout the country, these properties?
They're all throughout the country, right.
Nice. Well, big, $400 million worth of properties. I was at the ICSC conference, stopped in at the Sperry Van Ness booth, and Bo was there, and he talked about the auction, and I went on the website, and you guys are doing fantastic. It should be a huge success, and so wonderful. Kudos to you. Tell us about Detroit. Detroit has had some tough times, but are things looking up?
Yes, Detroit went through a very, very difficult time, as you know, in 2008 and 2009, where the auto industries were doing extremely poorly, and as a result, two of the major of the big three filed bankruptcy, and Ford was probably the one that did not. But still, the huge issue was the auto industry was in very dire straits in 2008 and 2009, and from that, it's been absolutely a complete turnaround. In a sense, a lot of activity, selling cars. Almost daily you can look in any of the papers, not only here in Detroit but across the country, on how well the auto industry is doing. Where Ford is ramping up production, their GM is adding facilities, and it's just a great great turnaround, not only in the auto industry, but it kind of spreads to every place else, because with auto industry, you have a high amount of technology involved, so
Sure.
our technology industry has increased substantially, alternative energy, and we're getting a lot of, also, I'm in a county, Oakland County, which is just north of Detroit, and we have like 700 foreign companies here all across the world, so we're kind of like a world city where everybody's looking at us. And for example, one country, for example, China, just there's like several dozen Chinese companies have come recently into the Detroit metro area just because of the affiliation with the auto industry.
Wow, very, very nice. And so when there's jobs, that means that residential is going to go up too, and again, if there is jobs and new companies coming in, that spurs on more commercial, which is right down your pipeline. Tell us about what you've been doing recently. Anything that we should know about?
Well, again, a lot of the things that I've been doing is just because of the turnaround of the Detroit area. There's a lot of activity going on. For example, I just took over the leasing of a 700,000 square foot facility, and from that, I can see from the type of tenants that I'm taking to that facility is, it's the 40,000, 50,000 square foot type tenants, which are coming from not only locations here in Detroit, but across the country and in the world. So you can see the activity that's coming in. The plus that we have here is we do have, because of the recession and the building that has occurred in prior years, we do have a lot of that space that's available for substantially reduced rates. For example, on this specific property that I'm working on, we're doing like a $10 gross rate, which you can't really get in other areas of the country for the quality of space that we have. It's institutional space. It has been really done up well and maintained well and so forth. So the big plus is you have this reduction in your operating costs by either buying a property that is still, the prices are fairly low comparatively, and also if you want to lease, the lease rates are substantially low, which obviously reduces your operating costs.
Well, very, very good. Now, tell me about what you think is going to happen in the future. Give me your crystal ball. I mean, you have been through very difficult times in Detroit. It sounds like it's coming back gangbusters. What do you see in the next couple of years, specifically in the commercial area?
Well, again, I see there's a lot of things that are going on in Detroit that hasn't been here before. And again, the issue of Detroit is sometimes you're getting some negative publicity because the city itself, which only has about 700,000 people in it right now, but you have a metropolitan area of 4.5 million people. Number one is the auto industry kind of grew up in the suburbs with Ford and Dearborn and GM and Warren and Chrysler and kind of Auburn Hills and Highland Park previously. It's really a massive metro area, and right now the city itself economically with the city finances is having some issues, and they're trying to resolve that right now. But on the other hand, the whole metro area is doing extremely well because of the big turnaround of the auto industry. As to the future, I see, especially with the progressive governor that we have now, who has a CPA and venture capitalist background, has really been bringing in a lot of possibilities for the future here. And, for example, in the last 2 years, we went from 14.5% unemployment for the state of Michigan down to, right now, we're about 7.9%, which is a tremendous turnaround in 2 years.
Excellent.
We've added like 156,000 jobs in 2 years to the state, so that's a big plus, and I see with this, it should be a big plus for the state of Michigan and the Detroit metro area.
Well, I heard CPA, which brings me back to your background. How did you get into commercial real estate, sir?
how did I get into? Well, I worked for the company originally right out of college with PricewaterhouseCoopers Coopers.
Nice.
Which was Coopers and Lybrand at the time,
Yep.
and they merged with Pricewaterhouse. But with that, my first job was a commercial real estate in one of the largest developers of real estate multifamily in the Detroit metro area, and from that, it kind of set me forward in doing commercial real estate, and my life went forward where after I left Cooper's, I went with a large mortgage banking firm for several years, and then a large developer. We built probably $500 million of commercial real estate, and then ended up with setting up my own firm, and then eventually merging with Sperry Ness.
Well, that's a nice story. I see every once in a while you send me stuff about that state psychiatric hospital that sold, and again, I was a small part of it as a project manager. You and Lewis Fisher were the head guys that really turned that around. But what's happening with that piece of property now? And again, let's go back to the fact that it was abandoned for years. How much did it cost the state to hold that property each year?
Well, that was the beauty of this whole scenario of how we were able to, which gets into the government surplus area,
Sure.
where, obviously this was a government surplus property for the state of Michigan. It was costing them $500,000 a year to maintain for, insurance costs, security costs, and everything else that was there.
Yep.
So the state obviously was in a position where, we really got to get rid of this particular property because it's costing us $500,000 a year. And from that, from putting the team together with Lewis and yourself and several other members of our Sperry Ness team, we were able to sell that property and brought the state the eventual sale price of $31.5 million, in addition to the potential of producing other income-producing properties on that property, which was right now there's a 100,000 square foot hospital going on that property. There's
Whoa.
80,000 square feet of commercial real estate retail space going in, and potentially I think there's like a senior housing project going on it. So you can see you're turning around a property that was sitting there just costing the state substantial dollars year after year after year, and you converted it into a revenue-producing property where they're not only producing income for the area, but also property taxes for
Paying
the city,
taxes.
and
Yes.
everything else that's a big plus. So it's a tremendous turnaround and a great positive, which again should be happening as I'm watching various articles across the country. I see that the government is finally getting its act together and starting to sell some of these properties and converting them and doing what we did on that particular property.
Well, very nice. Bob, give us your contact information. You're the guy to see when you talk about real estate in the Detroit area. How can people get a hold of you?
Okay, my name is Robert Pliska, Pliska, Sperry Ness here. My company is called Sperry Ness Property Investment Advisors. Phone number is 248-433-1400. My specific Michigan website is www.svnpia, which is Sperry Ness Property Investment Advisors.com, svnpia.com. And I'm on numerous social media sites under the handle of Pliska.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for calling in. You have a wonderful weekend.
Okay, Doug, thanks again, and I appreciate the opportunity to visiting with you. And you have a great show bringing in all these great commercial real estate people, which keeps me up to date.
Hey, thanks, buddy. You take care.
Okay, Doug, thanks.
Bye-bye. And we have another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Doug. This is Steve Papermaster. How are you?
Well, thank you, Steve, for coming on, and I'm fine. It's a beautiful day in St. Augustine here. Sun is shining, and life is good. We've had two fantastic guests on this first show for First Title National Real Estate. radio, and it was Larry Latham, who, of course, you know,
Fantastic.
founder of AmeriBid. I met with him when I was at the ICSC conference in Las Vegas earlier this week, and he just talked about what's happening, the trends, that Vegas is doing very, very well. And then we had Bob Pliska that came on from Sperry, Ness, Detroit, Michigan. And Detroit is doing gangbusters. So life is good. And tell us, Steve, tell us about First Title Services, First Title and Escrow, sir.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate that. And before that, very, very glad to hear that Larry's able to join the show, and the team from Sperry Van Ness. Larry is he's a pioneer in the auction space, so
Yes.
that's very, very exciting. And Sperry Van Ness has been such a leader in the commercial real estate space for so long. So fantastic and great job. First Title. So First Title started back in 1997 as a small local title company serving, could be local real estate companies, mortgage companies, banks, investors.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have since grown a great bit since then, where we have a number of offices around the country to serve our customers. And we are happy to be providing services to some of the largest banks in the country, mortgage lenders, credit unions, real estate companies, as well as developers, investors for every type of property, from single family to multifamily, as well as bulk pool transactions, large commercial transactions, and we've been very fortunate, and we're doing a lot of exciting things over here at First Title.
Well, yes, you have, and I'm going to guess this huge rise in services that you provide, and also the new contacts and new clients that you have. You must have some good people.
We have a fantastic team. You can't build a company without a phenomenal support staff. We have everything from experienced attorneys, paralegals, processing specialists, recording specialists. Also, what we do requires knowledge, and not just a local area, but on a multi-state area. So we've built phenomenal technology to track all the constant changes, from everything from jurisdictional requirement issues all the way to something as simple as closing cost information, from transfer taxes and recording fees and document stamps and everything that reflects or affects the cost of the transaction. We have to have that knowledge to really service our clients as well as we do today.
Well, again, it all comes down to people, and you've got a great staff. Of course, Pam Gibbons, she has been a friend for a long time, along with you. We met, I'm going to say 5, 6, 7 years ago, and you've always been a leader in this title company space. So I'm thrilled to be working with you and doing this radio show. We also, you have just hired a new marketing director and a social media director. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have been very involved in the social media space for the last year to really let our customers know, from other than just getting a normal email newsletter from us, but on a daily basis. Let our customers know, and people that are interested in First Title know what we're doing.
Right.
We're very active where we are. Our customers can see our blog posts weekly. They could see our Twitter feeds, our Facebook updates on a regular basis. We also have a new Google Communities page up for First Title called the First Title Real Estate Community.
Nice.
So we want to continue to let people know about First Title, but really more importantly, educate them on trends and opportunities in the marketplace, as time is moving fast for our business, and there's a lot of new and exciting opportunities around.
It's going to be a a great time with you, and looking forward to it. We've got a lot of guests coming up in the near future for this show. What do you see as trends in the title company space? What do you see? Is it just more customer service, more technology, a little bit of both? What do you see? How have you been so successful?
Well, to answer your first question, what are the changes? And you answered exactly, exactly what's needed these days is phenomenal customer service and technology. Those are a prerequisite to servicing any customer today. What really the sticking points are for customers today also is compliance. People don't like to talk about compliance. A lot of companies just act very defensively in terms of compliance, simply do what they have to do. Mm-hmm. We've taken some steps over and above in the compliance space, where we've recently received our SSA 16 SOC 1 certification, which is the highest type of certification any type of provider like us can receive, which tells our customers that we have strict monitoring, internal controls, policies, and procedures, so a lender or bank, any kind of institution, could feel safe that independent audits have been completed to assure that their data is secure. No doubt about it. So that's really the hot topic these days.
Well, you've got to dot your I's and cross your T's. They're looking, real estate people are looking for you to do that. And again, your background as an attorney and the people that you have take care of that. How do people get a hold of you, Steve, and your great company?
Sure. Thanks, Doug. They can find us on the web at www.firsttitleservices.com, all spelled out. Or they can reach out to us 866-4-TITLES, TITLES, and we'd love to hear from them.
Very good. Steve, thank you for being the sponsor of this show. You have a great firm. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Doug. Take care.
All right, take care. All right, wonderful show. We had Larry Latham from Las Vegas, Bob Pliska from Michigan, and Steve Papermaster from Rockville, Maryland. Steve is the president of First Title Services. I want to thank everybody for listening. Have a great weekend.